Welcome to the Arts Council of York County. My name is Mike Gentry. I'm the gallery manager here, and today we're standing in the Dalton Gallery with Fleming Markel to discuss her exhibit, Pent-Up Pink. Hey, Fleming.
Hey, Mike. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So, it's wonderful to have this exhibit because it's very different than normal exhibits that we host. Nothing is on the walls, everything is on the ground, and you have these sculptural pieces. So, first question I have to ask you is, what is the inspiration for this series of sculptures and assemblages that you have in the gallery?
I'd say all of my work is feminist. I have been totally influenced by 70s feminist art that I did not encounter in the 70s. Mm-hmm. It was not really until I was in grad school that I became acquainted with 70s feminist art, and a mentor and professor who has become a good friend suggested that I take, along with my graduate study, I took a women's studies course, which of course, when I was at Winthrop 50 years ago, was unheard of. Mm-hmm. And even though it was mostly women. And it was an eye-opening experience for me. I had never been a reader of women's magazines and paid much attention to beauty advertisements and fashion and those kind, just because it wasn't something I was particularly interested in. And it was pretty shocking to me how our culture viewed women, and I realized that I had lived and grown up surrounded by these women's myths that we all believed were true. Because that's actually what a myth is something that is not true, but everybody believes is true. Mm-hmm. And it just started coming out in the work. I really see this show as, I think of each of these as a woman. Mm-hmm. Actually, they're probably I'd say a facet of me. Okay. So it's pretty autobiographical.
So, what was the first piece of this series that got you started?
The first piece was Barbie. Was Barbie's burqa.
Okay, and that piece is a very visually tactile piece. Everyone wants to touch it. The strands of pink.
I warned you.
Yeah, the strands of pink string just flow down. When you first made that piece, did you immediately think that I'm going to make more of this work? Or what was it like when you completed that piece?
Let's see, it's been a while. After I completed the piece, I guess I really did want more of them. And I wanted, if you notice, they are pretty much life-size. Okay. And I wanted that too. I wanted them to be about my size. Now, I saw them initially as a shelf floating, but once I think that they've been constructed, they now look more like columns than they do shelves. And but she was first, and I'm not a big sketcher. Mm-hmm. This sounds a little crazy, but most of my work comes to me full blown, mm-hmm. and that I see an image, and I know that that's it, and I just want to go make it.
That's very interesting. It must be exciting when you get that first flash of what it could be, and then you kind of just chase it down and create it. So when you're creating the work, you're working with fabricators and maybe other artists to create this piece. What's that process like?
Now, one of my favorite things, I love working with fabricators who really have nothing to do with art. In this case, obviously a plexiglass fabricator, and I have become close friends. And they become an advisor and a part of the piece, which I really enjoy thoroughly. And then you can't really see, except maybe in the peach pits, several of them have steel fabrication as their support. And of course, he is a collaborator also. And I think the collaborators enjoy the work as much as I do because it's not their usual kind of thing. You know, I go in with the drawing and I'm explaining to them what I want, and they look at me like, you know, I'm crazy, and and we kind of go from there. And then I like the piece behind you, the button piece, really involves probably 40 women. I sent out letters to friends and relatives, because these things that you get with your clothes, to me it was a very feminine thing, and that one day I looked in my closet and up on the top shelf was this huge box of these things that where I had, you know, very dutifully saved them to, if I had ever needed them, I don't think I would have ever even thought to look for them. And I just found that very interesting, and I figured I was not the only woman that saved those. And so I contacted all these people, and it just grew. Like a friend of mine who lives in Washington, D.C., she then passed it on to her bridge club, and they all saved their buttons and sent them to me. So it really became a collaborative piece.
So that is something I'm very interested in about your work. It's a lot of art. We always talk about these elements of design, you know, line, color, hue, but you're kind of moving past something like that, and you're talking about materials. And the materials are really important to your work because it's the connotations that come along with them, such as the buttons and how they're saved and how they're presented is very feminine. These Barbies and how they're boxed and placed, like there's a specific kind of social connotation that, you know, we as Americans have with these objects. So can you talk a little bit about like what helps you choose these objects that are included in your pieces? Because I mean, every piece includes different objects and the connotations that come with them. So
I think a sideline with not all the pieces, but a number of them, particularly these two, is the sort of industrial consumer complex that we live in, that is very specifically targeted to women in terms of advertising, and that is part of the reason for using pink, because our culture has become more and more, you know, once a female is born, then it has to live in pink. Everything in its room is pink, all its clothes are pink, and I think our manufacturers and advertisers have played on that, where I think if you probably did some sort of scientific, you know, study, you wouldn't find out that female children were particularly attracted to pink and male children to blue. But, you know, it's just sort of worked out that way.
well, thank you. Thank you for all this insight into your work today. I really enjoy this exhibit. I love being able to walk around the gallery and interact with these things that are life-size and really think about what you're saying in the work. Thanks for coming in today, and thank you for watching. You can come by and visit the Arts Council at 121 East Main Street to see this exhibit. Thanks.